Welcome to the UC Buyer, and I am so excited to have some technological people join us here when it comes down to the technology beyond just unified communications as a service. The people at Telestax are talking about something entirely different, really. It's the next iteration of integration that's happening with software and communications. And we call that CPaaS, Communication Platform as a Service. So it's software-based, and I'm excited about what you guys are doing with this software-based technology as it relates to the integrations that you're doing with other kinds of software and the integration that you're doing with communications in general. So we have with us Kevin Nethercott, who's the VP of Telestax, and also Veena Vadgama. and Veena is the marketing person over at Telestax, and so she's got a lot to say about how they're going to market with this exciting new technology. So briefly, maybe both of you could jump on this question, and that is, what's Telestax all about?
So Telestax is a CPaaS enablement company. CPaaS, Communications Platform as a Service, which many of your customers are well informed about. We are here to make telecommunication companies very dangerous when it comes to being able to deliver and deploy CPaaS globally. Our biggest customers are the biggest telco companies in the world, and we're helping them compete with the likes of Twilio and others to get enterprises exactly what they need to transform their businesses, to improve, how they interact with customers and their engagement. So we offer a full platform, full suite of being able to do CPaaS, as well as some turnkey applications to get them up and running. There are very, very few companies that are strictly CPaaS enablement and focusing on it the way we are. To Kevin's credit, we've created a new category for a type of business model out there. So it's nice to be in that position.
Telestax was originally a spin out of Red Hat, where the team had been building this open source application server for the communication space. And so, the first iteration of the company was traditional open source, where it's kumbaya, let's just help everybody. And so that's when we made the pivot and launched our CPaaS enablement strategy. Because as we looked at it, we thought, okay, we've got the technology, we can go compete head to head as a retail branded product with the other CPaaS players. We absolutely could have. But what we recognized is our DNA was really more about helping the service providers be successful. And so when we looked at that, we said, okay, well, we can do our own hosted CPaaS, but let's do that in an enablement model where we can white label it like an OEM and really help the service providers, first of all, play defense. So as we were talking earlier, their customers would come to them and say, can you do this? And when they said no, then they were buying services over the top. And so the first thing is as soon as we connect those SIP trunks to our core, you're a CPaaS. So essentially the first stage was, let's help them play defense. Let's get a wall up so that they can keep their customers. And then the second piece is we've built a solutions group now where we have things like 2FA, number masking, message exchange, IVR, call recording, all these more shrink-wrapped type applications that you can put a SKU on. It's really easy for a service provider sales guy to go out and sell. Now they can go on the offense, right? So now they can proactively take these new enhanced products, higher margin, same network, and make more money off of that asset that they have. And so we really have been purpose-built from a technology perspective, but even more importantly, from a business model perspective, recognizing where we have the know-how and experience to help, frankly, what are really large brands already. They've already got success. They're doing things right. They just don't have all the pieces. And that's why we call it enablement. You don't have to use 100% of what we give you. It may only be 20%, but that 20% isn't really going to impact your business. And so we kind of plug in the pieces that you don't have and complete that whole 360-degree view of what the customer needs, at the other end of your network.
Yeah, I love that, because most cloud service providers don't have developers on their staff. Instead, now they can leverage your staff to make their dream come true. You know, this is a solution we're dreaming about. We got the vision, but we don't really know how to enable it. And that's what you're saying your team steps in to do.
Exactly. And we have things that you can take right off the shelf, or if you come up with a really cool idea and you need help building it, we can do that too, because we have the APIs to build off of and build these products. So you can do a lot of custom things, you know, down the road as well. So, you know, we're able to help in a number of different directions. But again, we want to keep it super simple in the beginning. We start with 1 or 2 use cases. We get some success, we get some momentum, and then, you know, the floodgates open and you really unlock just a ton of opportunity across the board. You know, in today's environment, everything is about digital transformation, right? So we're even seeing that more and more with the new normal and having to work remotely. It's a whole new world in how we're communicating and how business processes are working. And so communications is a big part of that transformation. And it's this CPaaS technology, along with your traditional messaging and phone service, that allows you to kind of play with the connectivity between a Salesforce.com, a Zendesk, an Uber. There's all these different ways that people need to communicate these days. And a CPaaS sits in the middle of that and helps connect all of that in an easy, meaningful way. And so it really kind of starts around with this concept of digital transformation that almost every business is in the middle of right now.
I see it as a very exciting time for you guys because integrations have been around for a while, but the integrations that are happening now are actually happening in a way that changes the way a business works. You look at a business problem entirely different when it comes to communications nowadays, because you're also going to enable things like Salesforce to hook right into the telephony piece. So for instance, when somebody calls in, then it immediately pulls up Salesforce in the screen pop, and you go, oh, Kevin just called me and he owes me money. I'm going to take this call. Tell me a little more about how they solve real business problems.
So maybe a good place to start is to share a little bit about how we go to market with this, because that helps. We can kind of talk through the advantages for everyone in the ecosystem. And so we've just explained kind of what CPaaS is. I think a way to personalize that a little bit is if you've ever gotten an alert from your bank that you've received the money that I owe you, then that's been facilitated through a CPaaS. So being able to send that text message is part of that business process. If you've ever taken Uber and you've called the driver, you're using number masking for privacy's sake. So I think that's the first thing to set out there, is that this is everyday stuff. When you get into the enterprise, yes, you have those other connections into some of the enterprise software like we're talking about with Salesforce. And the example you gave is right on. This technology has been out there in the market, you know, we're coming up on probably a decade. And it started with the developer community having access to these telephony services that they never had before, which was really cool because you could do those integrations that I just described. But now what's happening is with digital transformation, the enterprise wants to integrate all of this cool stuff. The first person that they're calling is their own telephone company, right? So whether that's AT&T, Verizon, Mettel, Nextiva, you know, whoever the local carrier is that they get their services from, they're calling them and saying, hey, I'd like to send SMS alerts. I'd like to offer two-factor authentication. I need to do number masking. What's happening is they don't have a CPaaS. And so these enterprises are now going to these over-the-top players to purchase these services. And so at Telestax, what we're focusing on is what we refer to as CPaaS enablement. And so essentially what we do is we provide a white label CPaaS platform that connects into these service providers. And it allows them to then turn around and not only provide APIs that make it easy to integrate, but also turnkey applications that their sales team can immediately take to market. And you know, we can spend some time talking about some of those use cases, but essentially that's what's unique about Telestax is we're in this position to really help communications companies provide the services that their customers are already searching for, and do that in a really cost-effective, easy way to go do that together as partners.
You guys now are saying, okay, you don't have to be a giant company to create something that you can take to the market that is enabled with CPaaS and change everything about that person's business, even if it's just a small little business. And it just makes it run so much better and adds features that could really change the trajectory of that business.
Absolutely. Let me give you 2 examples. So the first one, to your small business, think of a restaurant, right? You usually have the hostess that's answering the phone, trying to manage reservations. She's got crowd control going on. And somebody's calling in just to ask, well, what's your address? What's the special tonight? What are your hours? Those are things that you could have a bot easily answer. So something that's really simple is you could SMS enable that restaurant's phone number, and somebody could just text that phone number and say, what's your hours? And you could get a response. So that busy hostess doesn't have to jump on the phone and try and multitask while she's doing crowd control. So there's really simple things like that that are really impactful to small businesses and the individuals that are really busy. But then on the other side of that is, let's take the vertical of finance and banking. And as we know, security is a really hot topic these days. And so things like multi-factor authentication are a critical use case that every bank needs. And not only every bank, but healthcare, e-commerce, logistics, the list goes on where we need to authenticate the person on the other end. So just to give you a sense of the opportunity is that one bank have 5 million customers across the country or something. They generate about 3 million SMS alerts a month and about 1 million two-factor authentication. For a service provider that's looking for high margin, new revenue, that's almost $1 million of business a year by offering their own branded two-factor authentication. So it's really impactful. And they probably already are providing the SIP trunks, the DIDs, all of those phone numbers, everything that the bank already needs for all their telecom, their internet, their data, all of that. So now they're the trusted advisor, right, for that bank. So being able to come in and say, hey, I've got a security option for you. You don't have to buy it from some third party as a point solution. We now provide that under our brand with the support and quality that you've come to expect from us. So, you can impact something as simple as a hostess in a restaurant to being able to build, $1 million account with one incremental application with a current customer.
But then you look at what's happening with this global pandemic and COVID-19, and so much of these use cases have just exploded because people cannot get on the phone and make calls anymore to their banks. It's just too crowded. They can't go outside. They can't do face-to-face communication anymore. So the demand for these use cases and these applications have so exploded. I guess I'm saying the same word again, but they have really maximized in these past 3 months. And the businesses that have been already taking a bit of a step ahead to say, hey, we understand that 84% of text messages are read in 5 minutes. You can't, expect email to get out to your customers anymore. You've got kids in online learning and you're wondering, how are they going to find out about what our new applications are on our school website? Well, you're texting everybody. So these companies and these businesses and these organizations that have gotten on the board of understanding these applications and how critical they are a step ahead. And those that aren't, they're catching up. And as Kevin said, the fact that they can go to their telecommunications provider and say, I'm already working with you. I've already got these numbers from you. We have a strong relationship. Help me add this to my business because I'm not technologically savvy either, right? So that relationship and that partnership is such a big deal.
So that's why CSPs, for instance, need to have something like what you guys are offering, the CPaaS, in order to really become a thriving CSP.
Exactly. And the good news here is we can do it in a day. I mean, essentially all we do is connect your network through a SIP trunk, or if you have messaging already through an SMPP bind in connecting to your messaging network. And then our team's done a wonderful job of creating all these white label tools so that all of the application and API documentation, it's all white labeled. Even the details of the API call are white labeled. So we've essentially engineered ourselves completely out of the user experience. So it's a 100% your brand across the board. And we can get that set up literally in a day or two from a technical perspective. And then we do all the DevOps and everything on the back end through our cloud offering. And then the challenge has become not so much technical. So one of the kind of best practices, or one of the things that we've really learned over the last couple of years, is that we get with the product team, the technical team, we get it all set up, and then they go, oh, we need somebody to sell it. How do we sell these new products? And so one of, I think, the real value adds that's unique about our approach is that not only are we CPaaS enablement for the technical side, but Veena and her team has done a wonderful job in creating really rich material from a marketing perspective so that we can give you collateral immediately that can be easily rebranded.
So our sales enablement program, like Kevin said, it originated from this concept of we don't believe in it. If you build it, they will come mentality. You know, we have to build it, which we did, but we have to make sure that those guys are confident and dangerous when it comes to be able to sell CPaaS and the applications out into the marketplace. These guys, a lot of them are telco folks. They've been doing telco stuff all their life, or they're brand new into this marketplace, and the market is evolving so much that it's hard to keep up. So, you know, our experience has seen the sales guys and gals, you know, they want to sell what's on the truck because that's easy, but they want to sell also the nice new stuff, but they need to be able to talk to it correctly. So that's why we've come up with so much sales enablement. We have a playbook. We have our own secure portal that our partners can log into, and they get content that has been explicitly generated for them that they can easily, as Kevin said, white label, rebrand, put their logo on it, and train their teams on. But it's not just about content, because content is everywhere. It's about making sure that they have the confidence to go out in the field and talk this technology and walk the walk. So which is why we've actually gone face to face and given, as Kevin said, 1 to 2 day training courses on everything from what is CPaaS, how do you do a demo, how do you sell the individual application, how do you role play with customers that are with the competitors and they don't want to switch. So we've tried to go through as many scenarios as we can to make sure that at the end of it, they can literally go to bed, wake up, and start making phone calls and start getting out there. It's been really successful. And now because of the pandemic, we've actually brought the course online. So now it can be done 100% virtually. And we have some of our key accounts that are actively signing up for those this month. So we're really excited about bringing that forward.
Maybe we should talk a little bit about the real practical things that you have been doing in terms of markets and industries specifically.
Because of the success of some of the large publicly traded CPaaS players, I think ourselves and some of our partners felt that CPaaS had kind of hit the mainstream. And I think one of the key things that we've learned and created best practices around is that it's really, really difficult to go out and sell APIs and Salesforce.com integration. The use case makes sense, but as Veena was just saying, you know, the typical telecom sales guy isn't selling APIs. It's a pretty consultative sell. And so one of the things that we've learned, and we really stress this as part of our training and help along this way, is that it's really important to pick 1 or 2, at the most 3 use cases. And you really focus on the use case, not this CPaaS acronym. And so what we encourage our partners to do is look at 2FA. Two-factor authentication is a really hot product right now that lots of companies are looking for. So use that as kind of as a land and expand opportunity to go out with something that everybody's Googling and searching for as a product. You're able to take that to market. And then what we found is once we've engaged with the enterprise customer, they always come back to their sales guy and say, okay, well, you can do SMS this way. Does that mean that I could send a blast to my customers? Does that mean I can send an alert when this happens over here? And then all of a sudden, before you know it, you're in the CPaaS business, right? And so, you know, as we look at this, We see number masking as a key application. As I've mentioned, 2FA is super popular. A product that we call message exchange is also really important for the UCaaS space. I know that you have a lot of UCaaS listeners where SMS is becoming table stakes for end users as part of their unified communications experience, right? You don't want people using their private devices to send text messages to customers. You want to have an audit trail for texting just like you do email. And so, that's a real popular application as well. So with our platform, we have a lot of flexibility and there's a number of things we can do, but really what we focus on are these, handful of use cases that we know that the customers are looking for today.
Yeah, so Veena, you were mentioning some really interesting customers of yours that have kind of used your platform to change the way their business works. Companies like CleanCut, for instance, in the midst of all of this COVID stuff, that people needed cleaning supplies. And so maybe talk a little bit about that one and some of these others that you've talked to us.
Yeah, well, in preparation for this interview, for example, I reached out and I looked across companies that have been doing phenomenally well throughout the pandemic. And these aren't necessarily our customers. Our customers are the telecommunication providers. But I wanted to bring up some enterprise examples that are out there because I think they're just so much fun to talk about. So folks like CleanCut, these guys are offering a subscription-based service for your cleaning products. You've been searching out for toilet paper and Clorox wipes and et cetera. Well, now what? Guess what? This company has had a huge increase in their business in the past 3 months because they had the model already in place to get that delivered to homes. You're also thinking of companies like Zoom, which is now a noun and a verb. So it's received rock star status just in a couple of months because of what's been going on. There's also a really cool story I read about a company called Kudo, which specializes in multilingual web conferencing, which, we can completely understand with the inability to travel right now, but yet you're doing business all across the world. To be able to work with a company like that would be a pretty incredible. And they've had a 400% increase in sales. So again, that's good news for that particular business. And, not trying to get too personal, but for those folks that like their bidets, those have become really popular all of a sudden. There's actually a company called Tushy that has seen a huge increase in sales. So I just thought that these examples were fun and interesting and nice to share about. And all these companies use CPaaS to be able to get to talk to their customers. Hey, the day is on its way. Hey, it's been delivered. How is it going? Give some testimonials. All that can be done through a CPaaS app or a text messaging application, and they're getting much better response rates and customer interactions. So I think that's really fun to talk about.
Yeah. The reason digital transformation is growing so big right now is because of customer engagement. And so everything that Veena just shared are companies that are engaging with their customers successfully. And through CPaaS, you have a channel that the consumer gets to choose how they interact with you. So that could be a traditional phone call into a contact center. That could be a text message. It could be something on a Facebook Messenger. So there's all these different omni-channel opportunities that put the customer at the center of the dialogue. And we allow them or enable them to kind of choose what they'd like to talk to the company. And things are so competitive right now, and with everything that's going on, that customer engagement is just even more important. And that's where CPaaS really does play an important role.
What about the fact that selling CPaaS is not normal for them? So how do you get around that? How do you bring them into a comfort zone? I guess it's partially through your education efforts, like that class we just talked about. But in what other ways can you hold their hands? What other ways can you bring them up to speed so they get really adept at selling this whole CPaaS opportunity?
That's where Kevin and I come in with our 1-2 punch, right? So I come in first and I get them all trained up. I get them all excited. I say, hey, you can do this. We believe in you. And here are all the value propositions that you're now bringing. And honestly, they're excited because they really like being the ones that are bringing the new cool technology to their customers. Think of the doctor's offices that are now doing telehealth, Well, how are they authenticating with their customers? They're hopefully using 2FA, right, as a security measure. They can now get that from their telecommunications provider. Think about the doctor's office that wants to do number masking, because the doctor wants to be able to call their patient, but they want that number to be private, right? So there's another use case right there for CPaaS that we can put into a telehealth type environment. So we come in there and we get them excited, confident, trained as much as we can. We give them the ability to do a demo. We give them the ability to share content. And then Kevin comes in and says, okay, let's go out and sell. And then he has all the best practices. He has all the experience and all the know-how and how to get past to that call number 2 or that meeting number 2 to get things going.
It is really cool. When they finish our course, a lot of them actually go and update their LinkedIn profile. We have a little icon that we can share with them that they can add to their LinkedIn profile. So they're really proud about the fact that, I've got a certification or I've learned something that differentiates me, and it helps them in their career, right? Not only in their job today, but it's something that they've accomplished. And then we have our account teams that work really closely with our partners. They're really partners. Because I think it's maybe important to share too, is our business model is very much a partner model. It's a usage kind of SaaS-based model. So, to CPaaS enable a CSP, it's not $1 million software. There's a small setup fee, and then we just charge you when you use the platform. And so our team is super motivated to help our partner drive traffic, because frankly, we don't make any money until they do. And so essentially, myself, my team, Veena, and her team, we are extensions of our partners. And so, we really work closely with them. We have weekly calls. We do, monthly touch points with their sales teams. The other advantage I think that we really bring to this relationship is that we literally have, major partners all around the world. And so we're learning things from Indonesia, from Japan, from the Middle East, from London. And each has their own little culture thing or a different use case that they have a little twist on it. But we can kind of curate that information and then share it back to all of our different partners. And I think it really makes us a unique partner to work with. I feel like we're a global citizen too. We understand their business because we've come from that industry, and we're just here to help. So we've got the technology set up and ready to go. And then we really engage in helping them build the business, because our whole future is based on their success. And so we're completely aligned in how we work together with our partners.
When we start talking about revenue and how a CSP goes about generating revenue from a CPaaS provider, how does that work?
I can give you a couple examples. So I shared a little bit on the 2FA with the bank, right? And so essentially what we do is we charge a wholesale price for a service. And, we understand where we sit in the stack. And so, we like to keep that so that they're very competitive against the other products in the market. And so if we think about it, you've got, your over the top CPaaS players, Bandwidth, Twilio, MessageBird in Europe. They've set a price that enterprises are paying for today. Where we think we have a real advantage with our partners is that our partners usually own their network. So they have a cost advantage. These other players are usually buying service from them, right? So they have a cost advantage. And because they run their own network, they also typically have a quality advantage, because they're monitoring it end to end. It's not a least cost routing type of thing, right? So they've got that advantage. And then with our model, we come in at a price point that allows them to then be price competitive against any of those retail prices. And so that's, again, where this partnership of they have the network, we have the technology, we're able to bring that together and allow them to be very competitive from a price perspective. So 2FA, it's per session. Every time somebody authenticates something, the cash register rings. We get a small percentage, they get a big percentage. Number masking, you can sell them DIDs, you can charge them for the session that you've set up for the number masking, and the actual usage when somebody calls through the app. So you're making money 3 different ways with number masking. So essentially, it's taking their network, adding this layer of capability, and then it's really a situation where 1 + 1 = 4, because the differentiation that we create between the two of us working together allows them to be really have a differentiated product in the market at a quality price.
One of the other areas that we have worked hard on is not only working with the sales teams, but also looking at the business teams and the strategy teams as well as the marketing teams at our accounts, because what they're delivering when they deliver CPaaS is a whole new way of doing things. It's not just a product. It's not just another box that sits on their shelf. It's not just another SKU. So there is so much education and opportunity that we're offering them on how they can rebrand themselves on their website, or how they can be talking about themselves in terms of a digital transformation company now, not just a phone company. We're helping elevate them, not just from a sales perspective or a finance perspective, but it's so much from a mind share perspective. So there's a lot of thought process and thinking that we're working on with our partners to help elevate as well.
Yeah, that's so great. So thank you for being on the show today, and looking forward to our next meeting. Hopefully next time it's in person again.
That's right.
So,
I'm
absolutely.
ready to visit Dana Point.
that's right. Come on over.
Be awesome.
Well, thank you both for being with us. We'll talk again
Thank
soon.
you.
All right. We appreciate the opportunity.